JJ DiGeronimo, and this is Together We Seek God Online. And today I have another fascinating energy practitioner, one that is really dear to my heart, Ancestral Energy. And our guest today is Jacqueline Kane. Thank you, Jacqueline. You are a medical intuitive, which I absolutely love. Lower back pain is a big issue for so many women, and I'm really excited to not only learn about the work that you do, but also your journey. So let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with what is ancestral energy?
Well, first, JJ, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I love this topic. Ancestral energy is the unresolved emotional issues of our ancestors that have been passed down to us that we're not even really aware of. We are conceived in our mother's womb. We come from energy from our mother and our father, along with their ancestors behind them. So their unresolved traumas, their unresolved health issues, wealth issues, relationship issues, fear of standing in their own powers, all their thoughts, beliefs, their programming, their conditioning becomes us. And, you know, there's a lot of talk today about being authentically ourselves. Well, we can't be authentically ourselves if we're carrying that energy. Right? So that energy sets us up for certain situations, certain experiences. And sometimes we don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question because I work with so many professional women in the workplace, and sometimes they're worn down. They're just not themselves. They can't find their joy. So how do you know if you are struggling with energy that's no longer serving you, and especially if it's not from this maybe things that you're doing in your life all the time?
Yeah, it's like that big boulder, right? Like no matter how many programs you do, how many new modalities you learn, you're still carrying that heavy energy. And that's kind of like a red flag. If you've done a lot of programs, learned so many modalities, and you're still struggling, you're still like not energized, not thriving in life and business, then that's a red flag. So ancestral energy impacts 4 areas: your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your ability to stand in your power. So if you've had health issues that you've done so many things and it's still there, I do believe that we can heal from anything. So if people are healing from anything, then why are some people still holding on and still living with chronic pain, emotional pain, discomfort? That's one red flag. If you have your own business and you're trying to excel in there, and no matter what you do, it's not working, ancestral energy could be impacting that. You know, and for example, you know those families where they say, well, arthritis runs in our family, low back problems run in our family. That's just the way it is. When people say that, that's a red flag. That's ancestral energy that's been passed down. And people don't know that there's a way to clear it. You can actually clear it. But these are the red flags to look for. And that could come up to say, there may be some ancestral stuff that's going on here.
Well, I definitely want to dive into more, but I have to assume that you didn't wake up one day and just be like, I think I'm going to do ancestral energy today. So like, how did you even go down this path? I mean, it kind of seems like so far out there in so many ways.
Yep. Yeah. And it is out there, right? Let's just say any modality that really works, you got to go outside the norm, right? So there was one Christmas a few years ago when my sister-in-law, she lost her sister and she lost her father. And I said, I knew she was really close to them and it was going to be a tough time. I said, let's just go away. Let's just go to Ireland. My in-laws were from Ireland. I said, let's take the kids, the grandkids, and everybody just go. And my in-laws were like, we're not going. And I was just really shocked that they were so insistent that they're not going. And I said, fine, we're not going. It's off the plate. Maybe, you know, my personal family will go, but not all 13 of us. A couple months later, so I live in Connecticut, and I was at an event in Texas where my coach took us through this ancestral clearing. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. I really didn't feel anything as we were going through it. Right when he finished, A bunch of us got up and we were leaving the conference room to go to the bathroom. I had taken a few steps and literally my phone started texting. All these texts started coming in. And my son was like, I found a house for all of us to rent in Ireland, all 13 of us. So, I'm excited about that. And I said, honey, that's really great. But the verdict was, we're not going. The next text was my husband saying, everybody's on board. Mom and dad changed their mind and we're looking at flights. And I was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. What just happened? Because literally up until a few minutes ago, this was not even consideration. We had taken it off the plate. And in that moment, it had shifted. And we weren't even in the same state. We weren't even weren't even talking about it. So, of course, I went up to my teacher and I was like, all right, what was that? I really got to pay attention when things like this happen, because that's how I really learn and really embrace things when it's been a big shift like that. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking at my clients who weren't getting out of pain, who weren't moving forward in their healing journey, and started doing ancestral energy with them. And oh my God, things just really start shifting. Their health starts improving. Low back pain goes away. I've had clients where, for the most part, money starts showing up. It's like we open up all the channels and there's just so much more ease, flow, and abundance that comes through. So that's my first place right now where I start with people, because you got to clear that.
And I'm a big believer that the universe kind of brings you what you need to work on next in many ways, even though it may be, you might be like, I'm not prepared. I don't know how to do this. So you were already working with clients doing what? And then how did you really incorporate the ancestral? Because again, it's probably not something that you're like, oh, I'm just going to start working like this with my people. So how do you do that?
Yeah. And first, we're all skeptics, right? And I'm a skeptic myself. So there was resistance with people. But by that point, I was a massage therapist. I do Bowen therapy, which is the neuromuscular repatterning. So I do a lot of body work. And I was then learning a lot of EFT, inner child work. So I was already exploring that and adding that to my practice. Mm-hmm. So this was the next step. And of course, it was for the people who were open to it. Not everybody's going to start believing ancestral energy. It's such a out of the box concept. So, but the ones who really understood it and the ones who had had enough of suffering were like, yeah, let's just go for it. And wow, every time I do it, everybody's life changes. Things get so much better. I've seen marriages get better, relationships with their spouse, their children. Everything just shifts because you're no longer carrying that baggage, which can be really, really heavy.
That's so interesting. Well, I'm sure we'll have more questions in the chat. So how do you know? There are so many benefits, but how do you even know to even explore this? Like you mentioned, well, you've been doing this and you've been doing that, but it's not getting better. Is there any inclination that this might be something worth exploring?
So if everybody could right now think about their family, right? And if you think of your health, are you feeling the best you've ever felt? Are you living with physical pain? If you're living with physical pain and I ask you, what's the emotion under that physical pain? Is it frustration? Is it annoyance? Is it worry? And when you think of that emotion, did somebody in your family project that?
So, Jacqueline, I'll just take this with you too, because I've seen this too. I think sometimes it's hard to associate ourselves with other people, and especially when we're experiencing pain. And I think for sometimes like putting your hand, like say you have lower back pain or knee pain or, shoulder pain, like really feeling into that and be like, where is this energy coming from? Because I agree with you. I think we carry inside of us what's happened outside of us. And
Well, we carry inside too, and many people are empathic, right? So we're taking on other people's energies without even thinking of it. Where did our thoughts come from, right? If you believe I have to work 24/7 to make money, where did that thought come from? Was it yours, or were you in an environment that taught you that over and over again, that you have to work really hard? Were you in an environment where you kept hearing things like, oh, my body hurts, or I'm exhausted, I'm, I can't do too much because I'm tired, I've given too much, and now my body's depleted and I'm depleted.
mm-hmm.
What was the environment that conditioned you and that you were raised in? Because we've all been conditioned to carry certain energy and to carry certain thoughts and beliefs. And the more we delve into this, is it mine or is it mom's? Mom always said this. Dad, every time he came home from work, he was on the couch. He needed his break. So when we start looking at that, we can start to examine, where in my life could this energy be impacting it?
I love that.
What would happen if it was cleared? What would open up for me?
That's fantastic. And even we had a chat a couple weeks ago about when you start to seek new ways or new modalities, what are the barriers that Caitlin was talking about, the spiritual seeking, and what are the barriers that your family or your religious or your community traditions put on you? And how does that sort of contain you, and at what level?
Yeah. And, some things work for us, right? And some containers we really like being in. And then, but there's others that we want more. People set goals and people have desires and intentions. Every January, right, comes around, we have to set an intention. What do we want this year? And do you reach those intentions? Do you reach those goals? Or do you come short? Right? And why are you coming short?
Yeah, that's really an awesome point, and one that Amy just brought up in the chat is she said, I work with women and frequent in different areas of development, and confidence is generally a struggle for many women. Could ancestral energy be a contributing factor to a confidence issue that she's saying across so many of her clients?
Yes, absolutely. Because I work with a lot of women too, Amy. I'm assuming you do too. And the stories that you hear that people live through is can be really tough to hear. And what they experienced, they didn't grow up in an environment that said, hey, how are you doing today? What do you need? Instead, they were raised by the old programming of their parents and what was passed down. And many women weren't taught to stand in their power and say, hey, I want this. Right? The boys were sometimes, where they were raised, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be in the world? And go out and get it. But the women, the girls, were taught to take care of mom and to stay back. Right? So I don't think that women were really raised to be empowered. Not like the girls who are being raised today. There's a lot, it's a different culture. It's a different language. So the women I work with, they have been raised in abusive environments, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical. And I would say a lot of verbal abuse, disempowering environments. So it's very hard for them to then get to be 40, 50 and work and really look at that. It's hard for them to set boundaries because that's not normal for them. We do what's normal and what feels comfortable. For women to break out of that struggle to say, I matter and I'm going to stand up for myself. I had a client yesterday who, when she came in, she was all just really frazzled. And I said, what's going on? She said, oh my God, going through cancer was easier than confronting my husband with my emotions. And I said, oh my God, what's going on? She's come so far, and standing up and speaking up. And she's helped her husband to go from 12 cans of beer a day down to 6, which is huge. But there was still a part of her that was having a hard time speaking up and sharing her feelings and emotions. But why is it so hard for us? Because we haven't been raised to. We've been raised to put others before ourselves, to take care of others, to help mom. We've seen our moms work so hard, and we just want to make mom feel good. We want to make mom happy. But that same upbringing is then passed down to our kids. And how can we shift that?
Yes, that's so interesting. And so much of the work that I do around energy not only helps me in my business, but it helps me be more authentic, I think, when I show up too, because I've had to work through my stories and my hurdles. And I think for many of us, you know, the hurdles that are placed in front of us are some of the lessons that we signed up for. But if there is an easy path to work through some of those lessons, I'm for it. I'm for it. So, you know, how complicated is it to do these clearings?
The clearings are not complicated, but in the sessions, we do go deep, and I ask a lot of questions. And I'm looking at the answers. I'm always like dissecting, problem solving. So where is it that client needs to go to make the biggest improvement? What's the energy that she was raised in? What's the belief that was created in that energy? And what's the driving voice, the driving energy that's creating her life? Whether she gets to manifest what she wants or she's sabotaging it. And then we go into clearing it. We can clear it across ancestral lines. I've even been clearing it through past lives because there's different channels. And where does that particular person need to clear? And then usually we do some inner child healing because being brought up in a certain energetic environment, that inner child is still carrying all of those wounds. So we have to address the energy that she's carrying.
But I think that's awesome because I just love the questions you asked. And so we'll definitely write the questions down. But I think just getting to know kind of where it's coming from. And I think for many women, we're so busy delivering, so busy doing, so busy checking the box that we often don't sit with how we're feeling, what's hurting, what might be behind that, and how can I release it?
Yeah, we don't have time. Especially today, it's like there's more things on our to-do list. And I was giving a client a massage today, and I thought, wow, this is the space where you go into silence, right? Whether I'm giving a massage or I'm on the table receiving. So where are your moments where it gets you in the moment? And this is where self-care is so important. Slow down because our lives are going way too fast. Mm-hmm. It's overwhelming. And how can we put in more breaks throughout the day, whether you're breathing, whether you're out in nature, to slow down and say, well, how am I doing today? What am I feeling in my body? What does my body want me to know? I think bring in more ease and flow.
Yes, bringing more ease and flow. And I do think self-care, at least for many of us on the phone right now, was never a priority, was never taught to us, and we have to relearn it because when I don't know about all of you on the phone, but when I do self-care, I often bring my bag of guilt as a backpack. Like, I can't believe I'm taking this time out to do this. Do I really have time for this? You know, do I need this? So I just think for many of us, just how, you know, do you have self-care in your schedule? Is it once a week, once a month? Do you need to really increase where you have self-care? So I do love that. And I think there's another question too, in regards to the clearing. One of the women asked, in the story you told about your trip to Ireland and your family opening up to the trip after she's receiving the clearing, does clearing typically impact others in addition to the person receiving it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the clearings, if you have children, if you have grandchildren, we clear it from them also. And then we clear the parents, the past generations. But the more stories I hear that in the moment that we're doing the clearing, a child had a reaction. Like, for example, one woman, we were doing the clearing and she talked to her son a few days later. And he said, I didn't really feel good on Monday. And it was the exact moment that we were actually doing the clearing. And the beautiful thing is that if you have a strained relationship with your sister or your mother, when you clear it energetically, you don't have to say anything. It just resolves energetically and the relationships get better. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Instead of having to have those hard conversations, which sometimes you're never going to have. But energetically, the ripple effect of the clearing is that people feel it and shift immediately. Immediately, your life is not going.
Yeah, there's beauty to that. And I agree. Like, I'm not big into hashing out every detail, to just clear the energy, ground it, move on. So we have a question coming in from the ladies. How is clearing actually accomplished? Just through asking questions and bringing issues into the present awareness?
Good question. It's a visualization. So because energy is energy, I have the client really get in touch and describe the energy. And then we actually pass it back and then we transmute it and we bring a whole new energy down through the ancestral line, down through the client, down through the children, the grandkids, and then we ground it in Mother Earth. And there's always a lightness that happens afterwards, kind of like a big relief. But mostly it's visualizations, and I bring in some guides. I always create a sacred space in my work to ground everybody and to protect everybody. And then it's a visualization.
That is beautiful. And I'm going to open it up here for the last few minutes for questions. If you want to join live, you can definitely unmute yourself and join live. But I just want to remind everybody listening and everyone who's watching the recording is that Jacqueline Kane's profile is up to date inside Together We Seek online. So you can reach out to her directly if you'd like to talk to her more about this. If you are new to the community, make sure you put up a profile picture and just even a quick link or summary or links to who you are. Just this week, 3 women have reached out to me and said they've connected with women in the community, and some are setting up some retreats and some are connecting with practitioners. So it's actually a great community where you can connect directly to other women in the community, which is not always available on all the other platforms. So make sure that you use that with your profiles. So with that, if anyone has a direct question they want to ask, you're more than welcome to come off mute. I'll give it a few minutes, and then I have a couple more if nobody has any questions they want to ask.
I'd like to ask a question. I'm just curious, is this like a one and done type of thing, or do people need to come back and have another clearing done? Like, do some of these things just does the energy shift over time and revert backward at all?
Yeah, it really depends on the person. The people who that are already doing personal development work and have done a lot of work, it's faster. I do recommend, you also get the recording, so I do recommend that you do it every so often just to keep doing that clearing. But for some people who haven't really done much energy clearing, it can take a few times to really open up this channel. And for the families who have been, I feel that the families who have relatives with the Holocaust or Native American, or a lot of heavy abuse, it can take a few times to get to that place where they're really thriving after it. So it depends on the person.
Great, thank you.
Sure, you have a question?
One last call for any questions that you have. The beauty of these sessions is really, oh, good, Ivy. Sure, jump in.
Hi, my question is, what if you don't know any of your ancestors and you really don't know your lineage much? How does that come up in the session? Or that's my question.
Yeah, good question. You don't have to know them because we're looking at the energy. It's about shifting the energy more than having known them. I worked with a woman yesterday. She really didn't know her father, but you can bring in the energy of your parents. And most of the times we don't really know the ancestors past, our parents or grandparents. But you just bring in the energy of it. And the more you do this, the more your clarity opens up and you're able to see more. But in the beginning, it's just clearing the energy. So you really don't have to know a lot about them. And there's a lot of intuitiveness that comes through too. So what you need in the session comes through.
This is what I love about energy work, and especially energy work with women to women. Just when you really are with energy practitioners that are there to really hold space for you and support you and guide you, it really does allow you to drop down into a level that we don't usually work at most days. And so I'm really excited to just learn about all these practices. You know, some practices will be for some will be for others, but I think just having an awareness, because sometimes you might be talking to a friend or a coworker and you're like, you know, maybe you need to do a little bit of clearing. And even if it's new to them, at least you have trusted people that you know that you can send them to, because I feel like we need more women really working at their fullest potential. And for me, I really had to dig deep and get rid of a lot of junk for me to even feel confident enough to do that.
Yeah, and it still comes up, right? I mean, we're the onion. I'm still working through certain things. My mother was born in Sardinia, Italy during World War II. It was tough for her. And so I grew up with her saying, nothing works, nothing will get me out of pain. And that was ingrained in me. So I'm still working on clearing that belief and that energy from all areas of my life.
Mm. Yeah. And it's just so powerful to know like you're using your own practices to heal yourself and then using it to heal others. And I think that really is, women have so much. We've all chosen to be here. We have so much energy we've brought with us in so many ways. And I think for many of us, we're trying to maneuver that.
And it's when women help each other and step into authentically who they are and own their power, the life is going to change. The global healing that can happen is going to be worldwide and powerful.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Amen to that. I'm just going to say it right there. That's exciting. That's exciting. Well, thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to join us. We will put the recording up by the end of the week, and we're going to start converting some of these to podcasts so you can take them on the go. So thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing many more of you. And please feel free to reach out to Jacqueline Kane directly with her profile, and then Caitlin add the links in the chat. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.